I went into Malignant with few expectations. I had only seen the trailer and was expecting a modern horror movie that has a few cheap jump scares, some trippy visuals, and a twist ending that, according to the advertisements, had everyone talking. While I was mostly correct about my assumptions, by the end I was left sitting slack-jawed, staring aimlessly at the screen and wondering if I would ever get those 2 hours of my life back. Then, I realized it was worse than that because I needed to sit down, write a script, and tell everyone just what I thought about it. Basic overview of Malignant is that a pregnant woman named Madison, who's living in an abusive relationship, wakes up to find her husband horribly mutilated in the night. Then she is attacked by a shitty CGI shadow monster and knocked out. She wakes up in the hospital and finds her sister waiting by her bedside and a missing fetus from her womb. Over the next few days, she begins to have visions of people being brutally murdered, and when these murders begin to show up on the news, she goes to the police to inform them of her psychic connection to this killer. Over time, the connection between Madison and the victims comes to light, as they all had something to do with a hospital she was in as a child before being adopted by a nice family. And after watching some old home movies, it is revealed that the killer has the same name as her childhood imaginary friend. I wonder what that could mean, fellow audience member. From there, the movie becomes a mixed bag of caper chase scenes, melting wall visuals, and gory murders of the world's dumbest victims, all leading to an ending that was about as twisted as a twist tie left on a half-eaten loaf of bread by your drunk roommate who stumbled in at 3 a.m. Anyway, let's talk about the positives, because it isn't all bad. Annabelle Wallis, who plays Madison, does a pretty good job, especially in moments where she has to physically emote rather than scrape along the expository dialogue. I can see fear in her eyes as she's paralyzed by her visions, pain when she realizes that she's lost her child and may not have another chance, and defiance when she feels unjustly accused. The cinematography is good as well. There are interesting moments like top-down shots of people being chased through a house, and the action is easy enough to follow and doesn't become an eye-straining mess like the later Transformer movies, and overall it's competently done. Also, the casting choices of the younger versions of certain characters are convincing. I hate it when I see a flashback and I'm just supposed to believe that someone's hair has gone from platinum blonde to jet black over the course of 20 years, or a cleft chin just happened to appear in their middle teens. In Malignant, I can certainly believe that this child grew up to be this woman. Now for the cons. There is so much unnecessary exposition in this movie that cutting it out would have shortened the runtime by at least 20 minutes. Literally in the prologue, we see lights in a hospital flickering, and Captain Exposition blathers, "He's controlling the electricity," followed by us hearing the bad guy communicating through a speaker, and the same guy says, "He's talking through the speakers." Then, after we find out the killer has the same name as Madison's childhood imaginary friend, the camera turns to the lead detective's sassy black partner, and she states, "So you're telling me the killer's your imaginary friend?" This goes on and on throughout the entire movie. Those are just the ones I remember off the top of my head. In fact, the sassy black female partner's only real job is to blatantly spell out what we should be shown and not told. This is a common issue I have with modern films. It tells me that either filmmakers no longer trust in the audience's intelligence, or no longer have the creativity to show us rather than tell us. Moving on to the twist ending. I've seen paraplegics dancing a waltz twist more than this ending. I called 100% of it about 40 minutes in, and this crapfest is almost 2 hours long. I even paused the movie and told my wife the ending, and when we got there, she said aloud, "Wow, you really called that." Next, the script. Malignant really goes to show that a competent cast and crew cannot save a bad script. There was way too much unneeded exposition, and too many of the characters had to be the dumbest people on earth to keep the plot moving. For example, if you walked into your apartment bedroom to find the window next to your fire escape open and a trail of wet footprints leading from said window to the closet, would you A. Call the police, B. Get a neighbor to help you search the apartment, or C. Wipe up the water and go to bed? If you picked C, you could have been in this movie and deserved to die for being a fucking idiot. I have the feeling that this was originally written as an 80 to 90 minute long cheese-tastic slasher, then someone decided that it would be better as a serious dark thriller, and cobbled in scenes meant to raise tension and give us an emotional connection to the protagonist. It's like the original script was inspired by Hatchet, but the director wanted to make Hereditary. And I think it might have actually worked as a cheesy slasher. This last gripe is fairly minor, but I'm going to keep saying it until people catch on. Practical effects should always be used whenever possible, even more so if the budget isn't big enough to get some of that good CGI. The fast-paced bloodbath CGI soup sequence right before the climax could have been cut, and those funds used to produce more practical gore effects that are always more impactful to the viewer. CGI will never have the tangibility of practical effects. So, on a scale of 0 being utter tripe, 5 being an average film, side note, I hate how contemporary rating systems consider a 7 or 8 to be average. This is a rating system, not a school grade. Get your shit together. And 10, being The Princess Bride, I would give Malignant a 2. Plus 1 for competent acting, another for competent cinematography, and that's it. This movie was absolute crap other than those two factors, which by themselves cannot make a good movie. This was like a bad modernized version of 1982's Basket Case. In fact, you should just watch Basket Case. At least you'd get to see some tits. Well, that's all I have for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to see me give a positive review, check out my Top Gun review. And if you enjoyed this content, please think about giving me a subscribe. I could really use it right now. I'm trying to get to 10 by the end of October. Also, think about giving me a like and leaving me a comment down below, telling me what you thought about the movie if you've seen it, or whether or not my review has kept you from seeing this utter shit. Either way, have a wonderful day, and never be afraid to speak your mind.
Okay. How do you get 1,000 dead babies out of a dumpster? Pitchfork! Ow, waka waka!